Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show sponsored by Unibet. This is your Scottish national preview and I'm your host George Elek and I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding. Andy, you are a man who I think those watching this show regularly and who listen to this show regularly, I think they like to buy you a pint because last Saturday, Grand National Day, not only did you put up the winner in Corach Rambler, but we also had three other winners on the card. Florida Dreams that won the last at 18-1. Massive price. West Balboa who won the second at 9-2. And Irish Point who won the third at 5-1. Unbelievable tipping, but you didn't have the multi.
I didn't know because my form had been so embarrassing on Saturdays prior to last weekend. Not even I contemplated sticking a few together. I'd just be happy with one win if I was lucky enough to get it. But yeah, amazingly, all four came in. Obviously, there's a couple of losers along the way. They didn't all win on Saturday, but it was a day where I probably eradicated or eroded all the previous losses from my Saturdays prior. Yeah, for some random reason, the weekends just appeared to be a little bit of a blind spot for me. I had been until Aintree, but yeah, they all come together. Once West Balboa won, I thought, I had a little bit of a relief because finally a horse ran like I thought it should do, and then Irish Point did exactly the same. I was quite happy with that, to be honest. So yeah, the last two was a bonus, and it was a good result for the national round.
Yeah, really good stuff. Before we get into the air preview, let's just touch on the Grand National itself and Corach Rambler, an incredibly popular winner. These days, given how big the festival is generally, I think any Cheltenham Festival winner is going to be pretty popular. I think any Cheltenham Festival winner who goes and wins a race 2 years in a row is going to be very popular. I think any Cheltenham Festival winner that wins in the way that Corach has done it at the track, coming from late up the hill to win late on, but to follow that up with a Grand National success as well, it's a hell of a story. And what do you think the future could hold? The Gold Cup seems to be the plan for next season for the Grand National winner.
Well, I think he won a very classy Grand National. Obviously, we lost a few horses on the way, but we had a race that involved a lot of horses who've got good quality form prior. You had Noble Yateses who ran one in the Gold Cup. Galliard de Mesnil, a genuine Grade 1 horse, finished third. It just looked at a really above average renewal. And to be honest, I thought Corach Rambler won incredibly easily. The winning margin suggested he didn't, but the way he just sauntered through the race, got there travelling on the bridle at the last, and then quick and well clear was a sign of a horse that has got a huge amount of talent and a huge engine and a huge appetite for the game. It takes a lot for a horse to win back-to-back Cheltenham festivals in the same tough handicap year in, year out, and then to go on and win the Grand National a month later. He must have some constitution. So he now offers a whole raft of different options now for connections. Whether they wanted to go down the graded route, they could easily do that because he's good enough, particularly over this side of the Irish Sea when he's not taking on Galopin de Champs every day of the week. But he'd certainly be up there with the Noble Yates and the Brainman's Games of this world. The Real Whacker, of course, will obviously be in there as well up the north. So all of a sudden, Northern Racing has got a genuine depth to it. With Nicky Richards winning the bumper, that Florida Dreams, I had a feeling he'd be a nice horse going forward, and I think he'll do well over hurdles next season. He obviously got the Real Whacker and Corach Rambler in the staying division. So yeah, I think the winners now are beginning to be spread a little bit more far and wide.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough that I interview Peter Scudamore every week, and he has confirmed that the plan is, at least at this very early stage, to have a tilt at the Gold Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how that plan goes over the coming weeks and months. But congratulations to Connections, Corach Rambler, a popular winner anyway, but also a winner for Andy, one of four on the day at Aintree. But let's get into the racing at Ayr on Saturday. It is, of course, the Scottish National. We've got the Scottish Champion Hurdle, amongst others as well. And if you don't have a Unibet account, Unibet are our sponsors on the oddschecker betting show. You can get money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses when you sign up to a Unibet account, and a £10 casino bonus as well. T's and C's do apply. Click on the link below in the description to sign up to that. And we've also got extra places in the 115, the 150, and the Scottish National on coming up, and the 425 at Ayr with Unibet. So check that and we've got a money back bonus as well. We'll go through the card at Ayr, and then we will go through just touch on Newbury too. But let's start with the opening race at Ayr on Saturday, where we've got Frere Dam is the 9-4 favourite with Unibet ahead of Pay the Piper at 11-2. Alexa de Nuts and Hasanki both 6-1. Return Ticket 13-2. Melistic 9-1. Baron de Middleton 10-1. 14-1 bar those. And let's go for another big Super Saturday. Who's your bet in the opener?
Well, hopefully get off to a good start, similar to last week when I took Balboa, trained by Dan Skelton. And we've got another here in the shape of Frere Dam, who hopefully will kickstart a profitable weekend, as you say. I really like this horse. He was really good both visually on the clock at Newbury 2 runs ago, and I was waiting for him to run ever since. I don't know why he didn't run until only 20 days ago at Ascot. I don't know whether there's a setback or whether they're just waiting to get him back on some better ground. I don't really know the story there. But he was sent off a red hot favourite in a very hot race at the Berkshire track, and it looked when he jumped the second last as though he was going to oblige, but along came Black Jerry with a powerful late rattle and just run him out of it on the running. Once again, it was another winner for Gary Moore. Gary Moore's horses, obviously at the time, and still, as we speak, are running out their skin. So it was no disgrace to get beat by Black Jerry. He was gone on to subsequently win at, I think it was Plumton next time. It might have even been Fodmel. It's certainly down his neck of the woods, let's say. But the form was good. And Fred Dam just looked as though he needed the run that day as well. As I said, he just tired on the running. He drifted over onto the far side row, which ended up being the slowest part of the track. He visually got tired. The ground was on the soft side as well. I don't think it really did him any favours. But on good ground, the time before at Newbury, he beat Auchenrisk. Now, as we know, Auchenrisk went on to win the Betfair hurdle at the St. Lawrence track next time out. Being the horse of the highest quality, and he did it in a very fast time. If he runs to that level again, and there's no reason to suggest he wouldn't, because the ground at time recording is good to soft in places, and looks as though it's going to be a pretty dry weekend by and large, other than the odd shower. So it should ride very much in Frere Dam's favour. And I like the fact that he is fresh. A lot of these horses have had hard-knocking seasons. Your Hasankis, your return tickets, your Alexia Danutsis, and your Pay the Pipers of this world. So this really is a golden opportunity for Frere Dam to round up his season in the best possible fashion. So albeit he's a 9-4 favourite as we stand, and many will probably scoff at that, I actually don't think that's too bad of a price.
So if you're scoffing at 9-4 winners, I'd like to see your card, to be honest. 9-4, the favourite there, the one for Andy Frere Dam in the opener on Scottish National Day at Ayr. On to the 150 then, and this is the novice champion handicap chase over 3 miles, where we have got the Unibet ambassadorial pair teaming up with the favourite Nico de Boinville and Nicky Henderson with City Chief, who is 85-40, so it's a shade bigger than 2-1. Oscar Elite 9-2, Sail Away 5-1, as is where it all began. Temptation in Milan for Charles Barnes, sure to spike some interest at 6-1, 10-1 bar those.
Yeah, I can't say anything negative about Nicky Henderson, Nico de Boinville's horse here, City Chief. I'd almost suggest he's half been saved at this race. He could have easily gone down the Cheltenham Festival route. I'm not sure how many entries he did have at Presbury Park over that week. Maybe one. I don't know if he's still in the old Brown advisory until final declaration. But he's been talked upon in that kind of mould all season from very small beginnings or humble beginnings. He won the Touton Novices Chase last time out at Weatherby when we last saw him. He didn't beat a great field. I must admit, I think it was a substandard race, and I think the horse of Dan Skelter's on the day, Ballingarry Boy, failed to run up to its best. But either way, I thought City Chief was rather dominant in that contest. He's clocked a couple of decent time figures as well. The time before when he won at Hereford, he was good that day on the clock. So the data is strongly suggesting this fella is very much trending in the right direction. The reason I think he's been laid out for this race, or he's been safe for this race, because he won here last year, if you remember, at this meeting, at the Scottish National meeting over hurdles when he beat Hidden Heroics. So being Nicky Henderson, he's a bit of a creature of habit, and he does like to go back to meetings and festivals where he's done well in the past with a particular horse. I think his policy to leave this horse off 77 days might well work in his favour. Of the rest, I do have a little bit of a soft spot and a bit of time for Ned Tanner. who's trading at much bigger odds if you wanted to back something each way. He's got a fairly decent profile next to his name. He didn't quite have the speed to beat Richmond Lake around Haydock last time out. But at the time before, when he won at Kelso over 2 miles 7, he beat a horse called Latitude from the Mel Rody stable. I tipped Latitude last time out when he won at Ludlow, winning very, very easily. And he also ties in with Bill Baxter as well. He finished 4th behind Bill Baxter, went on to win the Top the time before on ground that was probably a little bit too heavy for him. Good ground, he doesn't mind because he's won on it. So if you look, I say, if you didn't want to back the class horse of the race, then previous course winner Ned Tanner has got a good body of work over fences. Might appeal either in the with or without the favourite market.
Yeah, Ned Tanner currently 14-1, and this one of those races where Unibet are paying an extra place, so you can get a 5th or 4 if you do choose to back Ned Tanner there. Since you keep your favourite, that's the good shout. There we go. Ned Tanner 14-1, 4 places.
14's 4 places is a decent bet for him.
Decent bet there. In the third, it is the Scottish Champion Hurdle over 2 miles. And here we have Colonel Mustard heading the market at 5-1. Rubode is 6-1 alongside Loda Sud. Soaring Glory 13-2. Nemean Lion 7-1. Salsada 7-1. Anna Benina, a bit of a drifter for John McConnell, 8-1. First Street for that De Boinville Henderson Unibet duo 9-1. Milkwood 10-1. Highway 102 11-1. 16-1 Paris Encore, and Royal Mogul 20-1. Again, 4 places here, Andy.
Yeah, which is handy enough, isn't it? The extra place certainly not to be scoffed at. I've always been a big fan of Colonel Mustard. Ever since I saw him as a novice, he was always going to make the grade. And he just hasn't had the rub of the green in these big handicaps. Second to First Street, of course, in the not First Street, State Man, I beg your pardon. It's First Street who was third that day in last year's county hurdle. Looked like he was going to win at the last, but then just didn't quite see it out as well as the winner. And he was second in the Moor Battle last time out when he was well backed. He's done really well, obviously, with his UK raids. The fact that he's coming here and he's avoiding the Pointers Down Festival suggests that they've had this race in mind for a little while. Looks the natural progression from running in the Moor Battle. When the Moor Battle form as it stands is pretty sound. He got beat fair and square by the winner on the day, Benson, but there's been horses out of that race that have already come and franked the form. Teddy Blue, who's 6, has won since. And El Muchacho, who finished 11th, almost won the other day at Wincanton, but for pulling himself up on the running. He's got a confirmed form with Lude Sud, who was third that day, but I think he will. He doesn't mind the ground. He's a strong traveller. It's hard to see him not being thereabouts, to be honest, George. I think he's solid each way. The other one I mentioned as well is Nemean Line. He's had a very light campaign, just the 4 runs, but good enough to finish third in a Grade 1, the Tolworth, and then he won at graded level last time out, of course, on the very same card that Colonel Mustard won. Finished second in. So he's a decent operator in Nemean Line, although he does lack experience, he does hurdle quite well, and Kerry Lee's having quite a decent renaissance in the second half of the season as well. So those would be my 2 against the field. Colonel Mustard, probably with the solid background of competitive handicaps behind his belt, would have been more the logical of the 2. But I certainly wouldn't put anyone off having a few quid on Nemean Line as a saver either.
Nemean Line 7-1, but the main selection, Colonel Mustard, is 5-1, so 2 there against the field. As I say, another race there where Unibet are paying an extra place, a 5th, the 4 they are there. Smaller field now for the future champion novice chase, where we have currently 7, so it's just a quarter of the 2 places. But here, Balco Coastal, again, for the De Boinville Henderson team, 15-8 favourite ahead of Unexpected Party at 9-2. That's All Right Gino at 5-1. Thunder Rock 5-1. Tell Me Something Girl 15-2. Hang in there 9-1. Richmond Lake 14-1. You know, I'm mentioning that you may not always think that Nicky Henderson is going to take a strong group up to air for the Scottish National Day, but he seems to here, and you can find on the blog that will be available up on the Unibet site on Friday. You can read Unibet ambassadors Nico de Boinville and what Nicky Henderson make of their runners this weekend. Last weekend, Andy had a good week, but as did they, with Nicky giving Caribean Boy a big write-up in his blog. Caribean Boy went on to win that race at 28-1. So we should get a decent steer on these Henderson horses, Andy. But what do you make of them?
I like Balco Coastal. Although he was disappointing last time out at the Cheltenham Festival for one reason or another. He never really travelled, did he, that day in the Turners? The race that was dominated by Stage Star off the front, and quite a few never really got into it, including Balco Coastal. Didn't jump as well as he can. He just never looked comfortable from the word go. Whether it was Cheltenham, I don't know. Not really sure he's absolutely in love with Prestbury, but on this flatter, more sharper, easier track, he should be more capable of running much more to his best form. I just want to touch him at the price. That's a problem. I think, for instance, the first horse I put up for $8 is a good 9 or 4 shot. I think City Chief's a good 9 to 4 shot or 5 to 2 shot. But I do think 2 to 1 for this fella against a pretty dangerous looking field doesn't represent a huge amount of value. I'm going to put up Thunder Rock here as the value alternative, around about the 11 to 2, 6 to 1 mark, I believe. Is that right? Round about
that? Yeah, we are getting 5 to 1.
5 to 1, sorry. I was slightly overstated him there. But I thought he ran with a good deal of credit in a race which is working out incredibly well at the festivals. We know the Brown Advisory, the Wheel Whacker, took care of Joey Colomb. But not only has Jerry Colomb gone on to frank the form at Grade 1 level subsequently, we've always seen the Irish Grand National winner come out of that, Iron Maximus, who was 4th. So given that Ollie Murphy's Charge wasn't a million miles away from the 4th horse, who's gone on to win at a very high level next time, there's every reason to think that Thunder Rock is capable of holding his own against this company, because I don't think it's the sort of strongest Grade 2 that we've ever seen. I certainly think the Brown Advisory was way tougher than this one, and he ran with a good deal of credit. Certainly got to give mention to Unexpected Party, who ran well from the back of the field behind Stage Star and ahead of Balco Coastal. You could certainly make a case out for him. And Henry de Bromhead brings the mare over. Tell Me Something Girl as well, of course, is a Grade 1 winner over hurdles and has got plenty of good form over fences, and the good ground will suit her. So an intriguing race rather than a brilliant one. But I do think Thunder Rock holds some of the best form going into this race, tied in with the Wheel Whacker twice. Don't forget he chased down the Wheel Whacker at Cheltenham. And, of course, he finished 3rd at Grade 1 level beyond Jerry Colong at Sandown. So I think he's got a really good body of work at Thunder Rock, and he's the bet at 5s.
5 to 1 Thunder Rock, the bet for Andy. As I say, remember, just 2 places there, quarter to 2 before you have your each way bet. Keep that in mind. On to the big race on the card, the Scottish Grand National, quality card throughout. But this, the feature race, and Monbeg Genius is the 4 to 1 favourite for John Joe O'Neill and John Joe O'Neill Jr. Kitty's Light just in behind at 9 to 2 for Christian Williams. Your Own Story for the Grand National winning duo of Lucinda Russell and Derek Fox. Melina Girl 11 to 1, Dusart 12 to 1 for Nicky Henderson and Nico de Boinville. Empire Steel 12 to 1, Magnus Sound 12 to 1, 300 through 5, and Elvis Mail and Under Supervision and Flash Cologne and Captain Nor and Mighty Thunder and Flower of Scotland, all 16 to 1, 18 to 1 by those. Andy, who is your pick or picks are your picks for the Scottish National?
Well, we're all guilty in this game of overcomplicating races like this sometimes. When I looked at the Grand National, the obvious one to me was Corach Rambler, so I didn't decide to be too clever and just stuck with what I knew and stuck with the obvious. And on that basis, I'm going to go with Monbeg Genius, who chased down Corach Rambler in the Ultima at the Cheltenham Festival. I was really taken with the way that Monbeg Genius went through that race. I just thought that day at Cheltenham he might just lack for a bit of experience. He's one of the reasons why I didn't go for him that day and went for Corach Rambler, because I'd had this horse on my mind for quite some time. He's always been a horse I've liked. I've put him up twice in my column so far this season, and he's done me a nice turn or two with a couple of nice wins. But they were in small fields against lower quality opposition. But he certainly rose to the occasion at Cheltenham, travelled really well. He jumped great, jumped like an old hand. Came there at the last looking as though he was certainly going to be a major player. And he just couldn't quite quicken as well as Corach Rambler did. But he only got beat 2 lengths. He went hard up the hill without showing the turn of foot the winner did. And obviously the subsequent exploits of the winner suggest that he's got away with it quite lightly, only been bumped up £5. He's now 145 compared to 140, whereas Corach Rambler's now 159. So I think he's still quite well treated. He hasn't got many miles on the clock. He jumps and travels. That's a great thing about him. He's got a really good cruising speed, good attitude. And in a probably race, I'd suggest at a renewal that he's a little bit substandard to previous years. I don't think this is the strongest quality Scottish National we've ever seen. I think he, along with perhaps just a handful of others, stands out like a sore thumb. So if he can avoid carnage early and race up with the pace, because it's a race that's often won by a horse that does race in the first half dozen or so, then I'd see Monbeg Genius being bang there at the finish.
So just one selection for the race?
I think so, yeah. I'll just mention a couple of others, but he's the only bet I'm likely to put out on Saturday. I can tell you for now, my column's definitely going to be Monbeg Genius heavy. I'd mention another horse I like, Famous Bridge, again, Nicky Richards' horse. He's all of a sudden come of age. He's been a bit of a slow burn, this fella. A bit disappointing on a couple of occasions over hurdles, but then at times looked really good. But since they sent him over fences, he seems to have put it all together. And his last two victories at Wetherby and here at Ayr have been very eye-catching. Again, whether he's quite got the bottle or the heart for this race, that I'm not absolutely totally convinced with, because most of his wins are coming small fields. But he has got a touch of class, and if he was to get into a good rhythm, maybe 20-1 for him is a big price. And you'd have to factor in anything that Lucinda Russell and Derek Fox team up with in a race like this. And Your Own Story falls into that category. He's run well here before. I thought he was a bit lucky not to win at Eider last time over 3 mile 4. He just got really far out of his ground, but the way he finished off his race suggests that 4 miles is no problem for him. And he's definitely got a progressive profile. So I'll mention a couple of others just for mentioning's sake, but it's all about Monbeg Genius for me in this. I think he'll win with a clear round.
Monbeg Genius 4-1 as it stands. And this is another race where Unibet are paying extra places there, a 5th to 6. So you're getting 6 places here if you wanted to back and have an each way bet in the Scottish National. No prices as it stands yet for the last 3 races on the card here, Andy. But do you have any inklings, any horses that we should be putting in the notebook ready for when prices do come out?
Nothing in particular in the last 2. There's no bumper horse I'm desperate to get with there. I thought the 445 was a trappy old race, not great quality either. So the only other one I can see was Hugo's New Horse in the 410. I think if I had to price it up myself now without seeing any tissues, I'd probably be sort of 5-4, 6-4. But it doesn't look a particularly strong race as far as I could see. And he's 3rd in the EBF final the other day. He's by far and away the best piece of form coming into this race. That was a real good renewal this year. Crambo who won it. He ran with distinction at Aintree last week in a Grade 1. I think he finished 6 of the 12 horses in that race. Henderson, the horse that was 2nd, a bit unlucky not to win that day. He's won since. And Cuthbert Dibble, who was 5th, he's won since. So it's pretty strong form. He reminds me of Complete Unknown as well, who took the EBF final last season for Paul Nicholls, in the sense I think he's going to be a good chaser next season. Complete Unknown ended up his season with a good 2nd in the Grade 1 last week at Aintree. And I think this fella's in the same mould. So for a mark of 130, he should really be beating the likes of Jalfoyd, Hunter's Call and Glinger Fame, who, were all double-figure digits age-wise. So very much one for the young bucks there with Hugo's New Horse in the 410.
Hugo's New Horse in the 410. There, keep an eye out, as Andy says, 5-4, 6-4. So if they open any bigger, hopefully the traders aren't listening. Then make sure you snap it up early on. There's also some cracking racing over at Newbury on the flat. The flat is, of course, back. Andy, anything we should be keeping an eye on that card on Saturday?
Well, the Greenham's the highlight, isn't it? With Cheltenham making his eagerly expected seasonal reappearance. I think he's one of the favourites for the Guineas, if not outright favourite, certainly vying for top honours. I think he's been putting odds on in that Greenham.
Yeah, 4-6.
4-6, yeah. That's certainly nobody's bargain at that kind of price. I did have a good look at these 2 trials, and I thought the interesting runner potentially was Magical Sunset in the Fred Darling, or what used to be called the old Fred Darlings, now the Dubai Duty Free. She really came of age towards the back end of last season. I thought she was going to be a very good filly. She beat Saki her first time up at Windsor. Now Saki is one of the favourites for the Guineas. And then the next 2 runs at the Curragh and Doncaster were a little bit underwhelming, albeit she was taking on a decent standard of opponents in those sales races. But her victory here last season towards the back end in listed company was really eye-catching. And that was the first time that she stretched out to 7 furlongs on on testing ground. Now, the ground at Newbury at the moment is good to soft, but they're due quite a bit of rain over the weekend in and around that area. So the softer the ground, the better. The Hannon team seem to just be coming into themselves as well now. They've had 3 winners in the last few days, which is a far cry from, I think, going about a month without a winner. So with Kevin Stott booked, I would suggest that Magical Sunset would be the most interesting runner in that Fred Darling.
Yeah, Unibet paying 4 places in that 205, but also, most importantly, a money back if your horse finishes second. So you can back Magical Sunset at 5-1. And if frustratingly finishes just behind the winner, you will get your money back as cash. So T's and C's do apply for that one as well, but worth checking out. That brings our Saturday preview to a close. Thank you very much to Unibet for sponsoring the show. Make sure you click on the link below if you don't have an account, and you get that welcome offer, money back up to £40 if your first racing bet loses, and a 10% casino bonus as well. T's and C's do apply. You've got the extra places are there in the 115, the 150, the Scottish National, and the 425. Money back as cash if your horse finishes second in the 205 at Newbury. So plenty to get your teeth into over at Unibet. Do subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel, where we will be back with a few shows next week, with, of course, the Punchestown Festival. Lots to get through over the course of the 5 days over in Ireland. We'll be going through those over the course of the week. So do subscribe to the YouTube channel there, or if you listen to this as a podcast on any podcast platform as well. Thank you to Andy for sharing his tips and insight as ever. Thank you for watching. Hopefully some winners in there. Please do ensure that you gamble responsibly.